Okay. So welcome everyone to the Town of Osillia special open meeting, May 31st, 2022, 2 p.m. in council chambers. So first off, I will ask for the approval of the agenda of this meeting. Councillor King, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor. Thank you. And I'm going to call this a public meeting. And I will call the public meeting to order at, 2:01 in the chamber. And I will first of all read the statement of the chair. This public meeting is convened pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act, RSBC 2015, to allow the public to make representation to council respecting matters contained in OCP Amendment Bylaw number 1375.01 2022 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1085.141 2022. Every person present who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. None of you will be discouraged or prevented from making your views known. However, it is important that you restrict your remarks to matters contained in the proposed bylaw. If you wish to speak once it is time for public representation and are attending in person, please proceed to the podium and commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and your address. If you wish to speak and are attending virtually, please raise your hand virtually. If you are unsure how to do so, you can find the information on the town's website, osillias.ca/public hearings. It will be your turn to speak once your name or phone number has been called. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. Once you have finished speaking, your microphone will be muted. If they wish, members of council may ask you questions following your presentation. However, the function of council at this public hearing is to listen to you rather than to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw. In accordance with the council procedure bylaw, presentations by members of the public shall be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes each. If a person has additional information that they are unable to provide within that time frame, they shall be given further opportunity to address council after all other interested members of the public have been heard a first time. Please refrain from applause or other expressions of emotion during this public hearing so that we may ensure as impartial a hearing as possible. After this public hearing is adjourned, council members will not speak to the public on this matter until after the matter has been dealt with at a public meeting. After this public hearing has concluded, council may without further notice give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. So could I ask the corporate officer, please, to read the confirmation of notice requirements?
Notice of this public hearing was given in accordance with the Local Government Act and the Community Charter by distributing the notice as follows. Publishing in 2 consecutive editions of the Times Chronicle on May 19th and May 22nd or 26th, 2022. Placing the notice on the bulletin boards in the town office and the Planning and Development Services Department on May 19th. Posting the notice on the town's website on May 19th, and it was distributed via e-news on the 19th of May as well. The notices were mailed out on May 18th and hand delivered within a 60-meter radius on May 18th as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Helson. Could you give a summary of the staff report, please?
The purpose of the meeting is to seek public input on the official community plan amendment bylaw number 1375.01 and zoning amendment bylaw number 1085.141, which received first and second readings on May 10th. The subject of bylaw number 1375.01 is the amendment to the official community plan is required to allow the subject property to be rezoned to accommodate the proposed multi-family development. And for the official community plan amendment bylaw 1085.141, the proposed rezoning amendment would allow for development consisting of 5 townhomes and a 4-story condominium building, which 75% would be rentals for a 20-year minimum.
Thank you, Mrs. Hilson. Now I would like to ask Ms. McKay, please, to give the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So, council will recall that on May 10th, council accepted the application and granted first and second readings to the proposed official community plan amendment bylaw and proposed zoning amendment bylaw for the property at 7808 Spartan Drive. If approved, the project would consist of a mix of 5 townhomes and a 17-unit apartment style condominium building. Now, the applicant is proposing to rent a minimum of 12 of the apartments for a minimum of 20 years, with 4 of those 12 units being offered at below market rental rates for a minimum of 5 years. And of course, all rentals will be secured by way of restricted covenants registered on title of the subject property. So I note also that parking is provided entirely underground on this site, and that will be distributed as per 2 parking spaces per each townhome, 2 for each of the 2-bedroom units and 1 for each of the 1-bedroom units, plus an additional 2 visitor parking spaces. The current owner of the property is Margaret Lutz, and the applicant is Jamie Harper, representing Sterling Pacific Holdings. I note also that Mr. Harper has a accepted offer on the property, subject to approved rezoning. And despite what some people may think, the town does not own and never did own the subject property. So council will recall that as part of our OCP amendment and a review, we prepared a housing needs report, and that report was prepared and submitted to town council and the province of British Columbia in accordance with part 585.2 of the Local Government Act. The housing needs report outlines data relating to housing needs and provides recommendations on housing best practices. Now, as part of the OCP process, our local community members and business operators were keen to point out the link between community health and adequate housing stock. For example, acknowledging the diversity of housing sizes in the community, encouraging a mix of 70% of the new housing units to include 1 and 2-bedroom units. Considering opportunities to expedite permitting processes for and development applications for proposing additional and attainable housing ownership, rental units, special needs housing, senior housing, or congregate care facilities, and recognizing the interconnection between a solid supply of affordable housing forms and new job creation. So the development here, of course, both the townhomes and the apartment style buildings will require the issuance of development permits in conformance to multi-family development permit area guidelines. And these guidelines set forth a threshold of design expectations, which must be demonstrated for each project in our community. These guidelines include the use of earth tones and soft muted colors, in addition to simpler plain geometry. Now, the applicant submission package, which has been previously provided to council, includes some artistic renderings of the proposed buildings, and Mr. Harper has also provided some additional pictures here for the public to have a look at. So the zoning bylaw, our zoning bylaw has a maximum density of 75 units per hectare for the R7 or high density residential zone. Now, this proposed development does not comply with that zoning, as it has 22 units and as opposed to 15 units on this particular property. Therefore, the proposed density is 7 units greater than would be permitted under the R7 zone. However, I note that underground parking has been provided, and then that in the opinion of the planning department notes that the site is not overcrowded with the proposed development because all of the parking is provided underground. So again, the applicant has also provided a shadow study, which is being included on the boards here, which illustrates how the apartment buildings will have limited impact on existing multi-unit residential properties to the east. Now, with respect to municipal servicing, the development proposal has been discussed with staff at Operational Services Department and the town's engineer. Additional information will be provided between 3rd and 4th reading and as part of the development permit process and as part of the building permit process to address servicing needs. Again, further discussions will also take place with the fire chief to ensure that on-site services can be provided accurately. Compliance with the Local Government Act, again, section 4751 of the Local Government Act states that during the development of official community plan or repeal or amendment of the official community plan, the proposed local government must provide 1 or more opportunities it considers appropriate for consultation with the community other than the public hearing. So accordingly, the applicant held a public information meeting on May 17th. A notice of that meeting was posted on the development sign at the front of the property and hand delivered to occupants of buildings adjacent to and across the street from the proposed development. That meeting was well attended by about 24 people, local residents. That is to say, comments received at the meeting were generally very positive, There was discussion with respect to the visual impacts which may affect the property to the rear, that's to the west side of the property. And there was quite a few questions about where the parking would be provided. At that time, it was noted that the private parking was underground as well. As noted previously, staff reached out to Interior Health and School District 53. Both of these agencies provided letters of support for the project, and staff have also been advised by local hoteliers and business operators of the proposed development, and they were in favor of the proposed development. So the rationale for recommendation at this point, the staff are in support of the proposal to amend the OCP and rezone the property located at 7808 Spartan Drive to accommodate a small apartment building and 5 new townhomes, with a proposal to maintain 75% of the units as rentals for 20 years. The project will aid in addressing some of the housing shortage in the community. Options before council are option 1, that council grants third reading to OCP amendment bylaw number 1375.01, and that council grants third reading to zoning amendment bylaw 1085.141. Option 2 would be that council determines that consideration of the OCP amendment and zoning amendment bylaws should take place at a later date. Or option 3, council could defeat the bylaws at third reading. The staff are recommending option 1 or 2, subject to comments received today by council. So implications, again, the community will benefit from the addition of rental units to our housing stock, Again, preliminary development proposal package was forwarded to outside agencies. And the Ministry of Transportation has provided preliminary support. The proposed zoning amendment has no implication for the town's budget. And as mentioned by the corporate officer, Mrs. Hilson, significant dates. The notice was published according to the requirements of the Local Government Act and delivered to notice properties within 60 meters. And again, the property is located within the municipal service area, which has been identified for multi-family developments. So thank you, Mayor Portoff.
Ms. McKay. So we will now go back to noticing that there have been some letters which have been included in the package. There is one letter from Bev Jackson in support of the new housing proposed that it would be for seniors low-income housing, as her specifically mentioned. A letter from Jerry Elbow concerned about amending the official community plan for housing instead of finding a use for the current designation. An email from Elaine Ecker concerned about parking, additional traffic, obstructing views of neighboring properties, and the impact on the town services like water and sewer. And an email from Brian Hunka concerned about the development being too large relative to the lot size and location and no provisions for suitable visitor parking. So those have been included, which is why I'm not reading all the letters that go with that. I will now go to presentations, and would the applicant care to come and speak? Just for everybody that's coming up, remember that you're speaking to council. I'm not saying that to you specifically, but oftentimes people turn around and speak to the audience. But in fact, when you do speak to us, you speak to people at the table here. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I want to first start by saying that there was a recent article in the Times Chronicle that stated we were a Vancouver developer. Although this is true, our main office is located in Vancouver. My family has long established roots in Osoyoos. We've been visiting Osoyoos for 3 generations, and we're lucky enough to build our home located in a Spartan about 3 years ago. We're also building a storage facility on the east side of town. We are not here for the short time. We are looking to deepen our roots in Osoyoos by building developments that are held by our family. We're looking to put Osoyoos residents first and maintain ownership of development for generations. I myself have 2 young boys and 1 unknown gender on the way, which my wife is surely hoping it's a girl. And that's it. We have no plans or desire to sell any of our properties and make a quick buck, as it was said to me in person recently. That being said, we have agreed by ways of restricted covenants to assure that a minimum of 75% of the apartment building is rented for a minimum of 20 years, with 4 of those units being below market rents. In actuality, we fully expect to rent 100% of the building. Putting Osoyoos first is important to us. We recognize both the struggle and the benefits that the summer season creates on Osoyoos. Tourism is required for the town, however, it does create issues for housing. To ensure that the residents of Osoyoos have a significant advantage over those who do not reside here, we have agreed to give the residents a 60-day advance period whereby they have the first option on the homes. To my knowledge, this has never been done in Osoyoos and should allow those who are looking for homes a sigh of relief. As with any development, there's always opposition. I want to touch on a few of those points that I've heard. You guys have all seen the plans. I'm not going to go through what I view the benefits of what I've stated. The number of below market rental units has been brought up. We have guaranteed that one floor or 4 units will be below market rental units as defined by the CMHC. Although 4 may not sound like a lot, it is just under 25% of the building, the rental building. We have chosen to stagger the site by deploying townhomes on the front and apartments in the back to ensure that the site is visually appealing and overall reduce the massing of the site. This ultimately reduces the number of units. Had we have solely done apartment style homes on the entire site, obviously the unit count would have quite honestly doubled, and therefore the amount of below market rental units could have doubled. However, we don't see that would fit the basic neighborhood character, and we're not ones to push something through like that when we don't believe it. In the last council meeting, I heard there was over 500 units either be built or already approved. I think the courthouse stated that. Yeah, so it's just think about this for a second. Imagine if each development offered 25% of below market rental housing to that. I know that's not a perfect example, but that is what we're offering is 25% rather than just number 4. The second major thing that's come up is the casting of shadows. The residents of the site directly to the west of 7808 Spartan expressed concern over the shadowing of their site. We have completed a shadow study at various times of the day and various times of the year to show that their site is in fact not impacted greatly by shadows. You can see them on the board in the back there, and I can circulate that. It's also legally packaged. It's important to note, however, that shadow studies are most impactful when considering a neighboring property that is utilized based on its current zoning or utilized at its highest and best use. The site to the west has the ability to do the same thing that we're proposing in terms of heights and setbacks under the current zoning. If they were to develop their site to the highest and best use, they would in fact cast immense shadows on 7808 Spartan, not the other way around. The sun comes from behind them and would cast both the church site and Spartan under the current zoning. Through the study, we've also demonstrated that the church to the north is relatively unimpacted as well. But speaking of a member of the church in regards to the stained glass window, and we came to the conclusion that it would have no benefit of that, or no impact on that. Sorry. One final note is that we are maintaining the same setbacks as what is allowed under the current zoning. If a congregate care facility were to be built, this would be allowed under the current zone and would have the same or possibly worse impact on shadows if they chose to not lay the site as we did, which I don't think they would. Under the current zone, they could build essentially a block and it would go upwards. We have the space in the middle of the site that ultimately reduces the massing and therefore shadows. Another issue that's come up, albeit a smaller issue, is just the boat trailer parking. As you know, but the public may not have, now Ms. McKay has stated that this is a privately owned site whereby the owner has granted a lease to the town for a trailer parking. My team has taken a very preliminary look at the current boat trailer parking at the launch, and we found we can actually greatly increase the amount of stalls with a redesign. If desired, working with staff, we have no problem doing this at our cost, and we can quite possibly increase the usability of the land. Lastly, it's important to note for the public that the current property zone does not meet the required zoning for permanent boat trailer parking, other than the management council. I know you know that, but I know a lot of public do not. It would take a similar amendment to achieve that. Finally, those are the 3 major issues that I've seen come up, and I'm sure I'll have a chance to address the rest that didn't come up today. But the world has taken a dramatic changes since the conception of the current OCP and the start of COVID. Housing prices have skyrocketed, supply has dwindled, and Osoyoos has increased in popularity. No one could have anticipated these changes when designated the land in the current OCP. And we're proposing an amendment for a development that places the Osoyoos residents first in 2008. We are essentially looking to partner with the town of Osoyoos and satisfy the objectives of the OCP through the construction of a missing middle housing stock and rental accommodations, both market and below market. We are not asking to vary the setbacks of the building site from what is currently allowed, and I guarantee my covenant that we are here for the long haul. Thank you very much.
Would you,
Yeah,
just a
we
minute,
don't-
Oh, sure.
Mr. Harper, can you just wait? Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess, well, we definitely need rental properties, that's for sure. I was wondering if there's a formula when you say below market for the 25% of the houses?
Yeah,
How do you
so
come up with that formula?
it's defined by the CMHC. So you take the median household income as what it in the census. You then take 80% of that is what you can spend, and 35% of that should go towards housing. And that's the number that would come, it works out to around 1,050 a month. for rental.
And how much would every gross in a year to qualify for that 1,000?
The median household income on site is around 52,000 last year.
Okay, thank you.
That's CMHC, that it changes every year, it could go down, it could go up, the 52 number.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So I'm thinking that it could change that amount for sure. When we looked at the affordable housing that we did, which was put up behind the fire hall, there were several homes there. Many of them were affordable, but the base price on what by the time they were built was higher than people anticipated. So it could increase.
Other than this is based on the median household income from a city, and historically, like, it hasn't changed that much from year to year. The 52,000 mark, 8 years ago, I think was down at like 48. It's not and that 4,000, you take 80% and you take 35% of that. It's, yeah,
And these are rentals, not for sale.
exactly. It's not driven by market rents.
Yeah.
Although it does work up to like 30% below market, 35%.
Thank you. Okay, so,
Good. Thank you.
okay, sorry that I missed that. I'm now going to ask if anybody, Mrs. Elton, could you get the list with, or do you have it? Does somebody have it? Do you want me to have it, or are you going to call it? No. Okay. Thank you very much. So, I have 3 people that have signed up here to make some comments. And the first person on the list is Tom Levine. Is it Levine or Levine?
Levine.
Levine. Come up, Mr. Levine, please.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Please make sure you state your name and your address. Thank
My
you.
name is Tom Levine, and I'm at the Elks Golden Villa. And that's all it's just behind the Legion.
Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's a Reed condominium development at Spartan Drive. This is a note to request that the proposed construction of condominiums in Spartan Drive area be denied and or canceled. With the cost of most regular housing beyond the reach of most people, and the proposed pricing of these units well beyond the affordability of most citizens, there seems to be a case of the rich getting richer while the remainder are locked out. Combined with this, the structure would block the view of the lake to many people. Additional traffic and parking would ensue for this area, and additional pollution would result in fewer birds being attracted to the area, and their calls would no longer grace our ears. I'm sure that there are many alternative sites at Soyuz where development of this nature could be located, and strongly urge all members of council to reconsider allowing this development to proceed as intended. Sincerely, Tom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Levine. Would you like to leave that letter that you have with
Absolutely.
Mrs. Robinson?
Yep.
And she will add it to right there.
Here, it's the same.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anybody has any questions or, thank you very much. The next person would like to come up is Michael Ryan. with the same problem that I do,
Disengaging your hearing aids is
with glasses and with masks, it's
Challenging.
difficult.
thank you, Madam Mayor and council and council staff and the proponents for the development.
Michael, could you give your address, please, so
Oh,
that we can keep
of
that
course.
in there? Yeah,
Yes, I'm across the street. I'm at 7805 Sparky Drive,
thank you.
apartment 202, we're neighbors. I'm pleased that this development is proposed, especially as a major rental development. While I missed the information session, I know that a number of people who reside in White Sands where I do attended and generally were pleased. I have several comments, and I guess they really are comments that deserve some or need some kind of response. The first is there's talk about a strata, and White Sands is a strata, and it is fully owned by the individuals who live there, and they form a strata council. And so I've been there for 20 years, and the developer's been there for about 27, I think, possibly, with the northern building. So I'd just like to find out a little more about the meaning of strata council or strata in relation to this particular development. Is it going to somehow have a board from among those few who own it? Is it going to have a not-for-profit society that owns it? Who is going to be directing it and managing it? I guess that's the question. Would you like me to pause when I ask the question and then go on?
I'm wondering, Miss McKay, are you keeping track of? Yes.
I am keeping track and I
Would you
know.
like to hear everything?
Yes,
first and then
thank
read?
you. That
Go
would be
ahead,
great.
Michael, and then we'll, Ms. McKay can respond.
Okay, fair enough. The second would be and you referred to it, Madam Mayor, while these are not being mostly sold, in fact, few of them are sold, there was this incident that you referred to in the housing around the neighborhood of the fire hall, which started out as being having a certain number of below market on title, and because there was a lot of pushback, it was rescinded by council and it was taken off, as I understand. So I'm just wondering, what kind of guarantee can we have beyond what has been stated in the documents that this will in fact for 20 years be a rental property?
She's keeping track of that question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The third is that the Interior Health, when they responded, they made a very interesting comment, and they said, we would hope that you would use universal design principles in building, in the design and the construction. And they gave 3 or 4 examples about having it accessible in terms of age and mobility and so on. And I'm just wondering whether, and of course height too, we have a woman who's quite petite, and she has great difficulty even reaching the door and the locks on her entry door. So I'm just wondering if that has been taken into account, if there will be any changes, if any have been already made, whether that is being taken seriously or whether it's just an aspirational thing from the Interior Health. And lastly, let's go back a little bit to what Tom was referring to. I think, what kind of disruption do the proponents foresee on the site and in the streets and so on, areas adjacent, as excavation takes place and as construction takes place?
Okay,
Those are my.
thank you very much. Ms. McKay, are you able to answer those?
Thank you, Mayor
Okay.
McCarthy. I will do so, and I will also ask Jamie to jump in as the applicant when appropriate. With respect to the tenure, of course, the intent is, although tenure typically isn't something we discuss when we're talking about land use, but the tenure in this particular case, If it is a stratified, then I'm assuming that they would be owned by the corporation, and the corporation would in fact form the strata. So how they're going to manage the rental units, that would be again up to the property owner. I'm not sure, Jamie, if you want to answer.
Sure, so five of the townhouses will be sold, so those 5 owners would have the chance to go on to have a strata vote, and the 17 units in the apartment building would be held by my family, and therefore we would have 17 votes.
Right.
And they're 5 or 17 essentially.
Five owner residents
And 17, we would have 17 votes, yeah.
So with respect to the fire hall area,
Can I
I'm sorry,
just check to make sure
Oh, I'm
if
sorry.
somebody, no, you're okay, you're at the table, if somebody, and they need to come up to the table, if, no, we've heard you, but in future, anybody who speaks must come up to the podium,
Okay.
please, thank you very much.
thank you.
Go ahead.
Good point, Mayor Laporta. So with respect to the fire hall area, or as we call it, Metal Art Plan area, just to remind council that those, the agreement to provide below market, affordable, below market attainable housing is the way it's phrased within the Metal Art Plan area, was agreed to by the Agricultural Land Commission at the time that the Metal Art Plan was adopted by council. So it's actually not changed. The agreement was to provide a minimum density of 30 units per hectare across all housing forms within the area. And that 15% of those 30 units per hectare will be provided at below market attainable housing. And I recognize that, you know, when it used to be 15% off of $500,000 is much different than 15% off of $700,000, but that is in fact the way that the plan is written. With respect to universal design, I have been in touch with Ontario Health about this particular request. It is something that we look for now in all of our buildings. And certainly that the applicant could be requested to provide that the below market units be fully, full universal design, which means below, lower than normal door handles and lower than required handles on the cupboards, et cetera. And of course, wide enough hallways to accommodate people with mobility problems. And Mr. Harp can speak to that at the end if he so wishes. I don't think that would be a problem. With respect to disruption in the area, it's unfortunate and unavoidable that any kind of construction is going to cause that, no matter what we're building. So that's just, that, unfortunately, that's kind of unavoidable.
Not funny.
I'll just say
I'm not
that
laughing about it. I'm sorry if that appeared to be the case, but I'm just suggesting that any construction is going to cause some sort of disruption.
Can I ask, maybe probably Mr. Harper, my concern is related to one of these. I know that the hallways are going to be a little wider. Is it mandated that doorways and, for instance, doorways into bathrooms and so on, are they required to be a certain height and width in order to perhaps accommodate wheelchairs or people who might require assistance?
So your entry doorway would be, yes, and one bathroom, minimum one bathroom in the suite would have to be required to be accommodated up to a wheelchair. Other bathrooms, you could go less width, you could go with like a 24-inch door, whereas a wheelchair needs a 32 is too tight, you need a 36, really. Typically in all our buildings, we do 36-inch doors.
Thank you. That was the only thing. I do remember when South Okanagan General Hospital was built, because I was on the board at that time. And fortunately, the bathrooms, now this was back in the dark ages, but the bathrooms were added on at the edge of you came into the room first and then the bathroom, because shortly after that, every bathroom had to be redone, if you can believe it, in a hospital to accommodate the doorway. So I know that that's a real concern. And if there could be seniors that are living here, then that needs to be done when it's originally built.
100% agree with you. And the one comment I just want to make on the site disruption, all of the site works would be contained to the site. On all our developments, we have all our site parking on the site. The worst part of construction is always the excavation. So we probably have to do the excavation in 2 phases. We'd have to dig one side of it so that all of our concrete trucks and workers can park on one side. Then once you finish the other side, then you can kind of shift it. It's a complete Jenga game, but we always do strive to make sure everything is at the least amount of disruption as possible.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ryan, did you get your questions answered?
Yes, I think so. It's still a little bit,
Yeah.
just a little vague about Ms. McKay's description of certain things being in the official plan for the Meadowlark neighborhood, but my understanding was that there was resistance from buyers, and as a result of that, perhaps with some lobbying from the developer, council took away those.
No, it hasn't been done. No, that several of the units there have in fact been at below market. And that has been handled through a lawyer and through Mr. Zachlin. I've been down several times to sign those when those were built.
I
So
see.
we do understand.
And do they remain then for a period of time?
Yes, absolutely.
In that same,
10 years.
same type?
Yes.
Good, well, I stand corrected.
It was, yes, it was handled properly. Okay, thank
Glad to
you.
hear that.
I mean, I don't have your name on the list and I'm going to have to go through the list, okay? So the next person who wishes to speak is Diane Trudell. Is that correct? Is it
Yes, it is.
Trudell? Okay, thank you. Give your name and address, please.
Okay, Diane Trudell, I'm the current homeowner at 9405 Spartan Drive. I just wanted to voice my support for the proposed project. The need for rental properties in Osoyoos is undeniable, and I believe the proposed development is a very thoughtful and necessary approach in addressing this issue. I support the proposed zoning amendment, the proposed building plan. I thought this meeting was to do with just the zoning amendment. I don't know if that's the case or, but that's, I don't have any comments at this point on the development. Other than what I've seen, I'm in full support of.
Thank you very much. And it actually is an official community plan amendment bylaw that we're looking at and a zoning amendment, both of those things. Great. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to I don't have anyone else who has signed up to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience? Would you, sir, would you like to come up to the podium, please?
My name is Rick Sanford. I live at 5 John Cole Place, which is due west of proposal. Pardon me, of the proposal.
Thank you.
A couple of things I'm against it, of course, because of the Mexican speech. I will have no view of the lake or Israelis. I look on the maps here. I don't know who drew up the shadow plan, but if you look due west of the building is where I live, on the northwest corner. The sun comes up from the hills, as we all know, on the other side of the lake, which is the east. On these, they show the sun coming up from the south. Something's not right there. So we will have no sun whatsoever. Just so you know.
Sure.
Okay.
And so you live in Golden Villa?
Yes.
Is that where it is? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
No, I'm just saying your
Yeah.
drawings are already wrong. You haven't gotten anywhere.
I guess it depends in the summer and the winter where the sun.
North
comes up
and
and might-
east and west never change.
Well,
Thank you.
so it could be a little different.
Good.
However, go ahead.
Did the developer show us that drawing by chance?
It is in the report as well.
So
Yes.
we've done 3
Let's see the shadow.
so we've done three times throughout the year with, so March 21st, June 21st, June 21st, September 21st, 10 a.m., 12 p.m. 2 p.m. North is about this direction right here. Do you see that? So east is about here.
We can show it to you after, sir.
Okay.
Showing it to us.
So east is about here, so it's correct. The sun rises about here and swoops around this way. That was my comment before. If the Elks were to be built to their full zoning, they would be here and the sun would be here, placing full shadows on this side and that side. But so,
Thank you. And if you would like to, sir, if you would like to, sorry, the gentleman, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch his name. So,
Rick Hunter.
yeah, if you would like to have a look, you could certainly talk to the developer after and he could show
As
that.
I said, I have a look and I know where the sun
so
comes up.
north is about that direction, so.
Perhaps you could talk to him later, sir, after our meeting's over. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on the, go ahead, Mr. Ginn?
Hi, my name is Eileen again, it's 94110 Church Avenue. I just wanted to address a question about the Meadow Lark. And because some of the councilors weren't here then somewhere, but there was, it had to be 15%. There were 26 units built, there were 4, and it was applicants that had to come to town to fill in the application. They had to qualify based on their income. And 4 lovely couples ended up in the 4 below market value homes. So there were 26 units built. We had to put 3.9 of them in below market value, and they work, and they absolutely love them. And I believe that it was changed to a minimum 10 years.
It was.
It was changed. to 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone? Yes, would you like to come up, please?
Annette Starr, 17417 87th Street. I am on the board of directors for the Elks Golden Villa, which is going to be affected by this, of course. One thing I want to say is that we are governed by the BC Housing. We cannot expand upwards. So you keep saying this, if we went to our full potential, unfortunately, we can't. We're governed by the governed by the BC Housing Society, so we cannot just build up if we wanted to.
Sure.
One question I have is these rentals. Are they gonna be summer rentals? Are they gonna be a minimum of a year rental, or, you know, because summer rentals, if there's people coming in and out of there every week, every 2 weeks and stuff, is gonna be very disruptive to the seniors that do live in the Golden Villa.
That's a good question. Can I ask Ms. McKay or?
Sure,
Yeah.
thank you, Mayor McCarthy. It is a very good question. I can certainly assure you, anybody that gets a rental in this town is not moving out anytime soon, including myself. They would be year-round permanent rentals. They're not to be summer rentals or seasonal rentals.
Thank you. Okay, I'll ask again if there's anyone who would like to come and speak. Microphone? No, there isn't a microphone. We don't need that. We're microphone less, so we don't need it. I'm going to ask them, I'll ask 3 times, so you do have an opportunity if you want to. I'll ask for the first time if anyone from the public would like to speak to this application. Mrs. Robinson, there's nobody on Zoom. Thank you very much.
Mayor McCullough, I just want to note that we are missing from the agenda. Normally we would provide the applicant's response. Provide to
absolutely.
information,
So
from the public.
It
So
doesn't say that here,
No,
but
it doesn't.
should we have the applicant?
The applicant would have up to
Absolutely.
5 minutes.
Mr. Harper, would you like to speak again before I call 3 times? Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Got some notes here. I think most of them have been covered quite well by Mr. Gelber here. I wanted to comment on Mr. Levine's original comments about affordable housing and being on the table. There is nothing that I know of in this world anymore that is truly affordable. What the goal is here, I believe, is to make more affordable housing, something that is less expensive, and that is what we have the opportunity to do. The size of the building is smaller than what can be developed if a existence a congregate care facility could be built. A congregate care facility under current zone would have the exact same implications on the properties to the west, north, south, east, and we would not be here today to have this public hearing. My understanding is it would fit under the zoning, although it would have the same effects, possibly worse if you were to fully load the site. Again, that speaks to the view obstruction.
we are not doing anything different in terms of size of building. In fact, it's smaller than what would be allowed under the current zone, and in terms of rentals, that was my last note. Rentals are long-term. I don't believe the zone or anywhere in Osoyoos allows Airbnb unless it is a commercial zone, is my understanding. So,
You cannot have an Airbnb in a house unless you're the owner, right? You can have one if you actually reside in the house.
Respectfully,
Yes.
Mayor McClure, Airbnbs are not permitted in residential zones within the town. Bed and breakfast facilities are permitted
So
in your house.
in this situation, obviously, you cannot have an Airbnb in an apartment unit. Doesn't, there's no separate suite inside that. So those are my comments, unless I missed something that you guys have a question on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Councillor
I
King.
don't think you can answer, but anyhow, if I read, I just went through and I rented one of your apartments. How do you manage that? You decide to sublet it for more money?
You can't sublet.
That's in writing.
We want to have control over who's in.
And a minimum of a year, if you rent, you can't just rent for 2 months and then move out. So is there a minimum time that you need that you can rent?
We'd be looking for longer term tenants. Finding a tenant is extremely difficult, maybe in terms of vetting everybody in that. So we'd be looking for a minimum of year lease, and possibly longer.
And Ms. McKay, that's possibly that could go in when this plan is developed. Does it make sense that a year is a reasonable amount? I think less than that could be considered.
The one thing to keep in mind, sorry to jump in, is that with the tenancy rules in Canada and BC specifically, they're very tenant based. Like there's no way for the owner to get rid of a tenant.
Yeah.
It would be the other way around. And with the lack of rentals in town, I can't see a tenant jumping in, jumping out, jumping back in, like, because they're not gonna get back in. Someone might do that once, possibly, maybe someone could fool us or fool the system and come in for a summer, and then leave, but then that's going back rented. The tenancy rules are very much tenant based.
Totally, and I get it.
But we would have no problem with.
I'm just wondering if we could look at that when we do the.
Thank you, Mayor McClure. Certainly to put it in strata bylaw as it is in
That's
the
true.
building I live in, that there's no subletting, et cetera, no Airbnbs, et cetera. And believe me, other tenants watch each other. And owners watch each other, as it should be, because that's our
Absolutely.
home, right?
And that's, if that seems to be important, then I think that should be brought up. Anybody else have any questions or?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Would you like to come up to the microphone, please?
And Marlene Alavin, 7810 89th Street. Just wanted to talk about the rentals a little bit because everywhere in Australia, it's minimum a month. There's no minimum a year. And I would say the more open the rentals are, the more it's beneficial for tenants. I know everybody's discouraging short-term rentals, and I agree that, but everywhere in Australia, rentals are minimum a month, not minimum a year. So I don't know if that.
So is that to have White Sands as well? There's a minimum of a
Yes.
month rental?
Everywhere.
Well, when you sign a lease with the owner at the White Sands, it's a minimum year lease.
Not everybody does that. So your landlord is just up to the owners.
There's another member of the strata here, I believe it is in the strata bylaws.
The bylaws, the strata bylaws of White Sands say that there is a minimum of 6 months and a maximum of 2 years for rentals.
So you can put it in your strata bylaws any length of time. But not in the, it's not.
My only concern was, and I think it was brought up, that somebody asked, they don't want to have a rental and then a month later, we have to reshuffle everybody and rent them.
I
Yeah,
know, but that would be hard on tenants if they cannot do it here. So I'm
Yeah.
saying it's not beneficial for them to have restrictions like minimum a year. Most landlords want minimum a year and they renew it, but it goes automatically month to month after. I just wanted
Yes.
to make this,
Yeah.
specification because there are rentals in town, and the minimum 1 month discourages seasonal rentals and short-term rentals and nightly rentals and weekly rentals. So we have that in many places. Also, I would like to express my full support for the development. And I understand it affects some people, and I agree with that, and I feel really sorry about it. But I can't think of any better use of that piece of land. If it was built according to the current bylaw, institutional, would affect the shadow, would affect the view, would affect everything. But this is owned privately by someone, and they want to use it, take full advantage of it. And the way the development is built to support rentals, it's pretty admirable, I think, because we have huge demand of rentals for staff, because we're, seasonal town, for hotel staffing, for restaurant staffing, everybody's fighting to find housing for that. So just wanted to say in full support for it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harmon. Anyone else wish to speak? Please come up to the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Oh, go get them.
My name's Ken Granger. I live at number 8 at Elks Gulch Road. A major concern involving not the building, but lives. That type of building with that many dwellings, apartment fires are very, very common. I know this because I've been a 30-year firefighter and I'm a safety officer. Right at this point in time, what I've been told, and I could possibly be wrong, the water mains in that area will not sustain 2 operating fire trucks. Now, if I'm wrong, fine, but I know for a fact that 2 trucks, if you get a major fire in an apartment, you're gonna have 2 or 3 operating pumps. They draw 1,500 gallons a minute on their full bore. And if they shut down for some reason, that hydrant's gonna come out of the ground and you're gonna have nothing. I just want it to be known that I feel life is a lot more precious than taxes. Okay?
Thank you very much. I just want to remind you that in Ms. McKay's report, she did say that the fire chief has yet to comment on the.
Yeah, I
building.
understand that.
Yeah, and he will make sure that.
If
that's
a fire chief has come up through ranks in the city, a big city, they understand everything. But from what I understand, it doesn't happen that way here. And I'm really concerned that the way this place is, there's no way to fight a major apartment fire. And there's been 720 this year in Canada. Edmonton and Red Deer both had the same identical type of a development. And they lost many lives. One was 7, I think the other was 11. And I need to see that.
And thank you for your comments. So they've certainly been noted. Is there anyone else who would, in the audience, who would like to speak to this issue? Okay, I will ask for a second time. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this application? And for a third time, is there anyone wishing to speak to this application? Thank you. Hearing none, could I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing? Councillor Bennett, Councillor Kane, all in favor. Thank you very much, everyone. So we're now going to move on to bylaws and the official community plan amendment bylaws. There is a consideration for third reading. And I'm wondering, council, what your wishes are. Councillor Kane.
Council grants third reading to official community plan amendment bylaw number 1375.01, 2022.
You're moving that. Is there a second? Councillor Bennett. Any discussion on this? And this is just, we have to do these separately. This is just the OCP. This would be read a third time. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Member Cordo. Well, out of respect for the fairly large input of information that we have, can I say this in all due respect about the motion? Personally, I would like a few days to kind of go over it and let it settle in a little bit. I was expecting a fair amount of input from the public, and I think we received an awful lot of it. Sober second thought is something that I live by. And I don't really want to vote against it, but I would ask for a friendly amendment.
Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, you have made the motion. Would you like to leave it the way it stands or ask for, give a friendly amendment? No, I mean, we can vote on it and then, you know, if it doesn't pass, we can put up something else.
I guess where would you like to see this move? Like a week from now or next council meeting? Or?
Well, that would be up to who prepares the agendas for us and the workload that's involved in it.
Mhm. I tend to agree with you, Councillor.
Yeah, I got no problem if you want to make it friendly amendment.
I would just say that you're going to withdraw that. Because you're totally changing that.
Okay, so what we should do is vote on
Vote
this
this down.
first.
Or you wouldn't vote it down. You can
Just
vote it
withdraw.
down and it's the
Yeah.
motion.
It's gone.
So if the seconder and the mover are okay with withdrawing the motion, we'll withdraw the motion and then it can, if council would like to move that be placed on a later agenda for future council consideration, that would be acceptable.
Okay.
Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, are you all right? All right, thank you. So we'll withdraw the motion. And Councillor Rhodes, would you like to make an alternate motion?
We have to make a motion because I think it's,
Option two.
you know,
You don't have to, if you.
Sorry,
it'll
option.
just happen
It'll
at
just
the,
happen. yeah.
at the easiest.
So rather than option one, it would be option two.
Or there doesn't even need to be a motion on
No.
the floor, because if there's no action taken today, staff would then bring this to a future meeting.
Okay. Ms. McKay? Did you have something?
Would that happen with option 1B also then?
Yeah, both of them.
Both of them together.
And then Director McKay will provide a staff report along with the public hearing summary from Deputy Professor Robinson that will be provided to Councilor Harvey so that we can vote.
Thank you.
The next meeting is June
14th is January.
2 weeks from now.
Thank you, Mrs. Hill.
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now. So we do not need to do anything here then.
No.
Thank you very much. We
I'd
will,
just like to say, I think that was a good idea with maybe Councillor Harvey will be in attendance hopefully on the 14th.
thank you, everyone. We will now move on to staff reports, and this would be the draft annual report. And that would be Mrs. Robinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm recommending, or we're recommending that council direct staff to make the draft 2021 annual report available for public inspection to ensure that the town complies with section 98 of the community charter. So staff is presenting a draft copy of the annual report for council's consideration before publishing the report for public review. All directors have provided input into the report with their department highlights and achievements in 2021. The 2021 draft annual report for the town of Osage meets the community charter's requirements. And so a bit of the background is section 98 of the community charter requires the council prepare an annual report before June 30th in each year, and that the report be available for public inspection. The annual report is required by section 98 of the community charter to include the following. The audited annual financial statements, the amount of property taxes that would have been imposed but for tax exemptions provided by council, a report respecting municipal services and operations for the previous year, a progress report respecting the previous year in relation to the objectives and measures, any declarations of disqualification, a statement of municipal objectives and the measures that will be used to determine progress respecting those objectives for the current year and next year, and any other information the council considers advisable, like long-term financial planning. So options is that council directs staff to make the draft 2021 annual report for public inspection to ensure that the town complies with section 98 of the community charter, or that council request changes be made to the draft 2021 annual report. So any implications we have? So for the community, the annual report includes goals and objectives for the current and next year, and demonstrates what progress has been made toward the preceding year's goals and objectives. It also consists of the town's audited financial statements and statement of financial information for the SOFI report. So organizationally, all directors will be in attendance. There's no budget to us. And significant dates. The annual meeting must occur at least 14 days after the annual report is made available for public inspection. Council must give notice of the date, time, and place of the annual meeting in accordance with section 94 of the community charter. And staff is suggesting that council consider the annual report, hear submissions and questions from the public at the June 28th regular open meeting. So the others I did consult was the Director of Corporate Services or the Corporate Officer. And as you saw, the attachment is the draft 2021 annual report.
Thank you very much. So the draft document is here. Are there any changes that you think need to be made to it?
Well, better question.
Sure.
If this goes to the public and then you have a meeting on the 28th and something comes up drastically that needs changing, how does that affect if this has to be in by the end of the 30th?
There would be no change to the actual document. It's just that the public is able to ask questions, hear submissions, and of staff and of council. It's kind of like our annual general meeting, but we're putting it into the regular.
It gives the public enough time to be able to
Review it, but they can't make any changes.
No, it's our.
provide comment. They'll provide comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Good question. Go ahead, Councilor Rose.
So moved.
So move that we have it available for public inspection.
Yes,
Okay, you're seconding that?
So we gotta go through the process.
Yeah, we do. All in favor? Thanks, everybody. Guys. And we will now go back to, I need, are we okay with that?
Only 78.
We will move, we need a mover and a seconder that pursuant to section 91C of the community charter, council meeting be closed to the public as the subject matter relates to labor relations or other employee relations. Councilor Rhodes, Councilor Bennett, all in favor.